Well, I just love my cats. This is Gaston, and Tony's on the floor waiting for Carolyn to come up with more cat treats to lure him onto the table here. Tony, come on up, baby. That's a good boy. You know, I love them especially best when they're well behaved. Well, no cat is perfect, but some of them really cause trouble, and their people aren't happy, and they are not either. So to reach feline nirvana, let's start at the beginning. And now I have little cat food on the floor. But, you know, these guys will find every bit of it. And by the way, does anybody here have a problem with cat behavior? By all means, type it into the comment box and tell me where you're from. Anybody. Tell me you're here and tell me where you're from. Miss America. Now, those are cat treats, you little rascal. Anyway, and if you can hear me loud and clear, please hit the, Tony T, hit the wow button. We've got a lot of cat treats here this time. Let me dig these out here. Miss America. Jeez. I know, yeah, it's sort of like frickin' frack here. There, okay. Anyway. Oh, thank you. Okay. So anyway, if you have a cat with a behavior problem, please type it in. In fact, you're welcome to ask me any question you want at all about cats or dogs, and it doesn't need to be behavioral. I've been in practice for a long time, and frankly, most of that was before I did my residency in veterinary behavior medicine, and so I actually have more experience in general medicine, although my practice has been exclusively behavior disorders of cats and dogs for the last 5 years plus. Anyway, ask me any question you want. And by the way, I'd like to know if anybody here has a new kitten, and tell me that little rascal's name. I have a story I'd like to share with you. I was just going through some of my old cases, and this one's particularly good because these folks, without meaning to, did not set their cats up to succeed. These cats, there were 7 of them: Moet, Aurora, Angeline, Fiona, Edgar Morse, and Atticus. And in addition to that, well, let me tell you more about it. These cats were in the family of Jay and Nancy. I'd known these people for a long time before they brought their cats to me for these behavior issues. They were general medicine clients. They go way back. And they had some urine problems in their cats in their home. And so they'd gone to their regular veterinarian who did urinalyses on them 8 months before I saw them for this. And they were diagnosed with bacterial urinary infections. Now, this is a mistake that is commonly made by general practicing veterinarians because dogs can very commonly have bacterial bladder infections, and so can people. But cats have much more concentrated urine at much more acid pH, making the growth of bacteria very unlikely. And it turns out of physical bladder problems that cause urinary symptoms, only 1.6% of them are due to infection, and many of those are due to some kind of immune suppression. On the other hand, well over 40% have bladder stones. Nonetheless, they were all treated with antibiotics, and they kept urinating anyway because that wasn't the problem. Okay, so Atticus, Fiona, and Morse, of those 7, had been seen urinating in the house. Now, chances are that at least some, if not all, of the other 7, of the total 7, were urine soiling or urine marking. It is a common problem in cats, and there can be a variety of different reasons in each individual cat in this situation. We're going to focus on the big players here, okay? Angeline sometimes urinates on dirty laundry on the floor, but it was Atticus, Fiona, and Morse who had actually been seen doing it. Now, here's the other issue. Perhaps the primary issue is Nancy and Jay had been long-time foster home for kittens. Now, this is pretty important work because we have good research to show that cats and kittens who aren't... Oh, Cindy, hey, wonderful. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for coming. I don't know, do you have cats, Cindy? If you do, maybe this will be helpful. You know, ostensibly what I'm here to talk about today is setting new kittens up for success in their homes. And this story I'm explaining right now is about a situation where there were a lot of kittens, and these long-time residents in this home, the cats, they were acquired as kittens, most of them, but these folks didn't know any better. Okay, but highly well-intentioned and very conscientious at the same time. So anyway, they have these foster kittens that come and go in their home. And I'll explain a little bit more about that in just a second. Now these cats, by the way, all 7 of the resident long-term cats had litter pans. And there were a total of 6 litter pans. Now, we know that the rule of thumb is 1 litter pan per household cat plus 1. Now, if you got that many cats, you actually need a lot more than that. But they had 6 pans, which isn't bad. And most of the cats did not cover their urine, and they all had clumping litter, a good thing, and the pans were scooped 2 or 3 times a day, another good thing. But why weren't those cats covering their urine in the pan? Generally because it's still too darn disgusting, because even getting scooped 2 to 3 times daily still wasn't often enough. Okay? So one day, what they found by watching was that Fiona and Morse, 2 of these long-term cats, would go to the area of their house. They had one room in the upstairs of their house where they kept this rotating group of kittens. You know, they'd take them in, and then they'd adopt them out, and they'd get another litter and adopt them out. And they had one room in their house upstairs where they had cages and a feed prep area and all that kind of organized stuff for these kittens. And Fiona and Morse would go in there, and that's where they'd urinate. Okay, so, and they were considering, of their 7 long-term cats who they loved, they were considering rehoming the 3 that they had caught urine soiling. And that breaks my heart. And it isn't just because these are broken relationships. And, you know, I'm in the business of trying to get everybody back to health. I don't care whether it's a physical issue or a behavioral issue. I want these pets to stay in their homes because that's where they're bonded. That's where they belong. And, you know, it hurts the person as well to part with these pets. But folks get desperate, and I get that. And so I said to them, I'm glad you came. Let's see if we can figure this thing out. Okay? So Morse in particular was a urine marker much more than he was a soiler. Of course, a urine marker is a cat who urinates a horizontal stream of urine against something vertical, like furniture or curtains or the wall, that kind of stuff. Okay? And he marks with large volumes. Now, historically, people have believed that urine-marking cats are territorial, and that certainly is a territorial behavior with cats when they're outside or free-living cats. But indoors, cats urine mark typically because they are uncomfortable in their environment. And so this was not only a home with 7 cats, and that's a crowd, and crowding is a problem, but then they had these other kittens coming and going, and that upset in the daily routine for Jay and Nancy's 7 resident cats was a continuing problem. Okay? So, here's Morse. He's an assertive cat with some of the other kitties. He chases Fiona sometimes. He's sometimes pushed away from the food by Atticus. And Atticus sometimes gets real aggressive when he's playing with Morse. In other words, they start playing and then Atticus gets way out of control. These cats are stressed. And they very quickly can get bumped above their level of, oh, Richard, wonderful. Oh, you're here too. Hey, and Heather is watching. That's excellent. Thank you for coming. Again, anybody has a new kitten or even a mature cat who does rather immature things or any kind of bad behavior, let me know about it. Okay. Physical problems, dogs too, I don't care. All right. So now Morse also marks in the sink sometimes. He also marks anything left on the floor, shopping bags, boxes, buckets, shoes, dishes in the kitchen, corners, and on cabinets. Oh, my goodness. Oh, Isabella, wonderful. I'm glad you're here, too. Thank you for coming again. It's good to see you folks show up every week. It's wonderful. I must be doing something helpful. So Atticus, on the other hand, he's been seeing spraying and urine soiling, and he's attacked one of the foster kittens. Now you think, hey, this is a grown-up cat beating up on some little kid? That's how stressed they were. Thank you for the hearts. Fiona, on the other hand, came from a feral litter. And we'll talk about feral kittens in just a minute. I've had that experience. But there's research on that too. Anyway, sometimes she sprays, and you think, oh, it's only male cats who spray? Oh, no. Any female cats will do it too. But she has not been seen urine soiling. And those are the cats who urinate vertically on a horizontal surface, like the floor, or the kitchen sink, or the bathtub, or the furniture. Anyway, this is the most common behavior complaint with cat people, by the way. There are others, but this is number one. And we love to prevent this, okay? So now Fiona was there first, by the way, and when Morse and Atticus were added, that's when she started urine soiling, in addition to urine marking. These are stress-related behaviors. Sometimes she would swipe at Morse and Atticus, and she would hiss at the foster kittens, and sometimes try to smack them. Mean, right? Little kids and whack them around. That's the kind of stress these cats were under. She sometimes likes to lie in their cages. So 3 of these long-term cats would go upstairs, find their way into the room where Nancy and Jay kept the foster kittens, and go in there and, smack them around and hang out in their cages and, like they were looking for trouble. Sometimes Fiona would bully Angeline. Sometimes Angeline would pop Fiona when Fiona was sleeping. Fiona ambushes Angeline sometimes. And I hate to ever even flirt with the idea of people rehoming some of their pets. And we try everything we can to avoid that. But I also point out to people that more is not better. People love cats or they love dogs and they overdo it, and it isn't fair to anybody. But these are stress-related behaviors in these cats, and one of the most significant things I really drilled into Jay and Nancy was this, is I want you to keep these cats. We're going to find a way to succeed here, but please not only don't add any more, but as they age and ultimately pass on, please don't replace them so that gradually your feline population shrinks. And I also said, look, you folks have done so much excellent work, God's work, if you like to think of it that way, of caring for these kittens and finding them homes and bringing joy to more people and saving those little lives. But your time is done. Don't take any more foster pets. We've got to reduce the stress on the cats living there, not to mention the stress on the fosters who come into the home. So here's what I told them. Atticus, Fiona's, and Morse's stability has been upset by the addition of some of the newer cats. The comings and goings of the kittens that they were fostering continues to inflame the sense of stress and crowding. All right, so to work the, okay. Most cats don't handle change well. They like their established feline social group to remain unchallenged. Too many other cats, along with the wild creatures that scare them, have caused your kitties, their kitties, to develop abnormal behavior of urine soiling and marking. Now, here's something else that was going on. These folks live in an area outside Santa Fe, New Mexico called El Dorado. It's a really cool area, a lot of passive solar houses, that sort of stuff. They're all on big lots, at least an acre. I think some of them much bigger. And there's wildlife nearby. And so one of the questions I always ask these folks with these stress-related behaviors, especially in cats, is what kind of creatures are visiting the yard? Stray cats, neighbor cats? Well, in this case, bobcats, sometimes a mountain lion, coyotes, and these things really stress indoor cats. Don't forget, cats are predators for sure. They naturally live off rodents like rats and mice. But they're also a prey species, meaning that they're not that big. And so in the wild, they've got to be looking over their shoulder. And that's normal behavior for them. Really, it's a normal stress. So cats who are indoors exclusively don't have that natural stress. We're actually taking something away from their natural, genetically God-given behavioral model. They're missing that, but they're inside a house with windows. So when they can see or smell these wild animals outside, what are they supposed to do? They're in a fishbowl. They can't escape. They can't chase them off. They can't do what's natural to them, and that is stressful. Okay? And it's not a natural stress. So what I wanted them to do was to set them up for success by diminishing their anxiety. And one of the things we did with 2 of those cats, because it was so severe, we put them on anti-anxiety medications, only to set them up for success, not to hope that that would be the whole solution, because it isn't. But in some cases, these are safe medications. We can do it without side effects, and we set these pets up to succeed because they can't succeed any other way. So I gave them some fun ways to improve the well-being of these cats, including cat trees, floor to ceiling. Here's a picture of one that my sons and I built, and that's Tony. He and Gaston are on the floor right now because they've run out of treats on the table. We'll have more in a few minutes. But do you notice I made this with 2 4x4 posts? We wrapped it in sisal rope for scratching. There are 2 hide boxes built into it. Cats need to hide high and low in different rooms, and it's against an exterior window. And you notice how tall it is? These cats can climb up there, and they do often. It's mighty important to them. Okay? Oh, here comes Tony. But these guys go outside a lot too. They don't leave the yard, in part because we have this border collie who doesn't let other cats in. Okay, so anyway, litter pan management. They needed more pans, spread them out all over the house. Okay, I would say close to 2 pans per household cat, and they needed to make them enticing with a product called Cat Attract. I've talked about that before. It's a Dr. Elsey's product. And also big pans, clumping litter, no covers on them. Keep the pans in low traffic areas, and then reward proper elimination. People forget that cats, they certainly respond to positive reinforcement. You catch your cat doing the right thing, you tell that cat it's a good cat. Ann Manners is here too, and Darren, wonderful, I'm so glad you're here. And Richard, hey, thank you for coming. So, no punishment. Absolutely no punishment, please. People, understandably, people lose their patience. I mean, who wants to live in a litter pan, really? And you catch them in the act and you want to bust them, don't you? People have paddled their cats. They yell at their cats. They throw stuff at their cats. It damages relationships, and that isn't how cats learn. The problem with punishment, even if you were able to do it every single time immediately following that bad behavior, there's never anything about the punishment that teaches the cat what to do instead. We have to set them up for success. So in the case of 2 of these cats, of Jay's and Nancy's, we reduced their severe anxiety with medication, but we made it easy for them to do the right thing by putting litter pans really kind of all over the place. And I had them clean up the urine soil areas with an enzymatic cleaner like anti-icky poo, that's what it's called, or zero odor. These are very good products. They could booby trap some areas like the sink and the bathtub where some of these cats would go. But they absolutely had to make it easy for these cats to do the right thing. And part of that was reducing the crowding. So no more fostering. So then I came to learn that Morse had passed on. Morse was kind of the worst of the bad actors. And so I got this email from Jay. And he said, thanks, Dr. Nickel. Morse had Cushing's disease, which is very rare in cats. Of course, I know that because I'm a veterinarian. He first developed diabetes, which often precedes Cushing's, which is a problem of the adrenal glands. Actually, it's the other way around, pardon me. Cushing's usually precedes the diabetes. And no matter what insulin or dosage we tried, it didn't regulate his blood sugar. And cats can be very hard to regulate. Then he started developing really thin skin, which would rupture with little force. He was a real trooper throughout, but died about a year after the diabetes was discovered. I just couldn't believe how well he handled all the trips to the veterinary clinic and all of our attempts to control his symptoms. He just purred and made his silent meow. So despite the stress that Morse had and his struggles with the other cats, he was still a really sweet cat. And Jay and Nancy loved him, and they were very bonded to him, along with the others. So we've got to keep these pets in our home and do what it takes. So Morse, he said, he taught me some humility too. We can learn from our pets. I'll tell you, this guy right here, Juan Gomez, my wonderful Airedale, he taught me a lot about fatherhood. In fact, I learned from him that I was actually getting ready to be a father. Different story. But we can learn from pets. I was ready to chuck him for peeing all around the house. Then we discovered his disease, and that probably had a lot to do with his bad toilet manners. And yes, it did, because he was moving a lot of fluid, drinking and urinating excessive volumes. The treatments you prescribed worked some, but didn't stop at all. We had an enormous mountain to climb on this thing. He would abide anything but being picked up. He loved getting pets and his belly rubbed. Take care and Merry Christmas to you and your family, Jay. These are very personal problems for people, aren't they? God, these things are just challenging. So, what I like to suggest when people want to get off on the right paw with adopting a kitten is choose the right one. Now, sometimes we can relate pets to our children and our families. We can cause ourselves trouble by anthropomorphizing, but we wouldn't find that we were expecting a child in a family and not have the nursery ready when the baby was born, or if we were adopting. Of course, sometimes those things happen. All of a sudden you get an opportunity, but typically we're prepared, aren't we? But people forget that when they adopt a pet. And what you should do when you start out is try very hard to adopt a kitten or a cat that's a good match for your family. And I have a video. It's on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com, right, /Dr. Dr. Jeff, Nichol, DVM, Doctor of Veterinary Medicine. And you will find all of my YouTube videos, and there are literally hundreds of them there. And there's one called, Choosing the Greatest Kitten for Your Life. It was a long time ago that I made it. Anyway, you can observe and temperament test some of these kittens and pick one that works for your personality in your home. And if you have one or two other pets, I hope not more than that, if you're adding any pets, that works out well. And by the way, if you're going to adopt a young kitty, only do it if your existing cat is also a young cat. A mature or older cat with a young kitten often goes badly. Okay. Also, I just wanted to make a point about adopting feral kittens. I've done this, of course, out in the vacant field behind my house. I heard some meowing and went out there, and the mother had run off, heard me coming, and here were these kittens. So I went back off, and then it turns out she was gone. And we had these starving kittens. So, of course, we took them in, and we bottle raised them with kitten milk replacer and did all the things to keep them warm and gave them the best mothering that a person can. And, of course, they thrived and did fine. But they were more than feisty. They were aggressive toward us. And those feral-raised kittens usually don't do well in domestic homes because their mother was feral. And so be very cautious about that. I'm not saying you should never do it, but your expectation should be that you won't really have a pet. You'll have that kitten or that adult cat, and it will live with you, but it doesn't necessarily become a good pet long term. And socialization really matters. When you have a new kitten, it's that period of time between 2 and 7 weeks, which is actually younger than when you actually get the kitten, when they need to be exposed to other people and cats of different ages. And if you're going to have a dog in your home, to dogs too. So they learn that as their little immature feline brain is going through these crucial developmental stages, that they get imprinted with the kinds of creatures that they will be exposed to throughout their adult life. 2 to 7 weeks. And that's a critical window. When you get past that, the ship has sailed, and you don't socialize after that point. So if you're going to adopt a kitten, and shelters are now doing a better job because they understand this, of exposing those kittens to a lot of different people. So that really matters. So let me talk about another enrichment. Here's a great way to keep cats from, and Caroline, if you would keep Tony especially occupied. This is a cat scratcher. They make these. This is kind of a rough, almost an industrial type carpet on this thing. It's on this angle like that. You can keep it on the floor. You can move it around if you want to. Some of these things have the sisal rope, like the cat tree that we built. Okay. I like to have a variety of these surfaces so the cats will scratch them. Well, here's a really cool product I want to show you. Excuse me, girlfriend. And let me turn the camera around so you can see it. This is called Fila Scratch. It's a pheromone type product that also has catnip in it. Not all cats are genetically programmed to enjoy catnip. our cats happen to be, especially Tony, which is why I asked Carolyn to keep our boys occupied for just a minute, because what I want to show you is how you apply this stuff. Oh, here comes Gaston. So anyway, you get a bunch of these in there, these little packets of this liquid stuff, and you cut it open with a pair of utility scissors like this, and then you take your cat scratcher, if you can see what I'm doing here, and you make a few stripes on it like this. You see what I'm doing? Okay. And there we go, like that. See what I've done with the feelers scratch? Okay. And then now, Carolyn, if you don't mind handing me some little cat treats to lure these guys up here, we'll see if they get interested. Oh, here we go. They're on their way already. Okay, there you go, gentlemen. And see if they're showing any great interest in the... Can I hand you this? Thank you. So anyway, you put the feeler scratch on the cat scratching device. You don't put it on your nice leather furniture or on your clothes or on your skin, right? You don't put it where your cats shouldn't be scratching. You put it where you want them to. And you see, here's Tony. He's already showing an interest in this thing. And in fact, the truth is we just bought this thing recently because we got a new couch. And I thought, okay, let's try to avoid this business of our cat scratching the new couch. So I ordered one of these things online. And the cats weren't using it much. So Carolyn said, why don't you put some feeler scratch on it? And I thought, well, we'll just do it during this Facebook Live. So that's the kind of stuff that you can do to set cats up to succeed. And the time to do it is when they're babies. Have your home ready when you adopt them. Already have the floor-to-ceiling cat tree, multiple hide boxes at different heights in different rooms, cat scratchers. You need more than a sack of food in a litter pan. Have at least one litter pan per household cat plus one, and be ready for your cats. Let me see if there's any other questions I should answer here. Bernadette? Oh, Bernadette, you're here. Darren? Ann? Oh, Ann, I'm learning kittenhood again. It's funny how much you forget. So far, we haven't had an issue of urine marking. Yeah, Ann has a new kitten. And in fact, Ann adopted a kitten from a cat who was living in her yard. You know, feral is kind of a fluid definition. This mother cat isn't highly tamed, but her babies, I think, are, from what I understand. I haven't met them because Ann lives in Tulsa. She's my excellent sister-in-law. We do have our fair share of Ella chasing Charlotte. Yeah, Charlotte was the established kitty in her home. Carolyn, what, about 7, 8 years old by this time? Mm-hmm. And see, that's another situation of a mature adult cat adding a kitten. And, you know, I'm not saying it doesn't work, but there are often challenges with that, and you just have to know what you're getting into. Sometimes it works better than others. Oh, Sally Foote. Oh, thank you. Sally is one of my colleagues. She's another veterinary behaviorist, and she was commenting on the feeler scratch. It is a good product. You know, it isn't the end-all and be-all. We've got stuff like other feel-away type pheromones, like Feel-Away Multicat. It's a plug-in diffuser. Helps to promote a more social, emotional state among cats in a group. Thank you for the hearts. Feel-Away Classic has a calming influence. And, you know, all of us want simple solutions to our problems. I get it, so do I. But these things are not that simple. And so we want to find that one thing that's going to make all the difference. Well, there isn't just one thing that makes all the difference. It's a combination of things. And in the case of Jay and Nancy's multiple cats, we had to custom fit what we were doing. We had a lot of follow-ups and all that. So anyway, the thing I like to point out is that I would like to encourage everybody to set your cats up by establishing a foundation of trust and choice and freedom. Because cats and dogs, just like people, can get obstinate if their leader only wants their needs met. Pets can learn anytime during a relationship that they can trust us not to intimidate them. They are the most forgiving. They can set an example for just about any human. And again, I've learned a lot from my pets, and Jay learned from his cat Morse. They do give us another chance. So if you've made mistakes, if you've punished, if you've hit, it's all right. Let's move on and get it right the next time, because they'll give you a second chance and a third chance, and they'll keep doing it. I hope you found this information useful. You're welcome to share this Facebook Live with anybody you might find helpful. And by the way, you can subscribe to my website, drjeffnickel.com. Oh, thank you, Sally. Well said. If you subscribe, just go to my website, the homepage right at the bottom, drjeffnickel.com, drjeff, N-I-C-H-O-L. There's no S on my name. And you can subscribe. It costs nothing. And every Tuesday morning in your email box, you'll get my Facebook Live from the week before and my, what we call a media blog, which is actually a question answer. Sometimes I just write information in my column in the Albuquerque Journal. Last week it was about a remarkable new test for dogs with chronic vomiting, diarrhea type symptoms, coming and going kinds of things, and a test for markers for different types of intestinal problems without having to take biopsies, and very often without having to do an ultrasound evaluation, and it can direct the doctor right to the appropriate treatment. So I put stuff in there about physical things, cats and dogs, behaviors, the whole thing. And you can get that in your email box on Tuesday morning. And we're all about just trying to bring out the best in pets and their people. So thanks for sharing this time with me. And every week I encourage people to wear your mask. We're getting through this thing. I haven't gotten my vaccine yet. I'm lucky. I don't have any serious medical conditions, and I'm not 75. So here in New Mexico, you have to have one of those or both, or you haven't been vaccinated yet. But we're going to get there, by golly, and we're going back to, my wife and I will start going out to dinner again someday. We'll go on vacation too. So thank you, and thank you for those hearts, and I'm glad you participated. And let me see if there's any other questions that I should address here. Bring them on camera. Yeah, I know. These cats are, oh, here comes Tony. He's going to show back up again just in case there's something else going on. Gaston, he's never here unless there are treats. But Tony T, he's ready. And see if there's anybody else. I think that's in Amy. Thank you for coming. And Susan, I'm delighted. I'm glad I have some people I don't get to see very often. So thank you for coming. And everybody have a great evening and be safe. Don't forget to wear your mask.